opening and running a prosperous business. These are no small feats, especially for a young man who still has much of his life ahead of him. Today's guest has surpassed all of those struggles and more, and continues to be the best he can be. The Humanities Mass Communications Department at Norwalk Community College presents Person to Person, a show that introduces you to some of Connecticut's most interesting people. And now join our host, Eric Lopez, and our guest, Junior Sierra.
Thank you for joining us for today's edition of Person to Person. Try thinking for a second about if you had to leave your home country, friends and family, everything you knew behind to start anew in a foreign country. Now think about how much harder it will be to build a new happy family somewhere that is unfamiliar to you. Our guest today has done all of that and is now a proud and successful owner of a beloved family business, Sierra's Deli. I'd like to introduce you to our guest today, Junior Sierra. How you doing?
Hi Eric, thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to.
It's great having you here.
To be here and be able to share a little bit of who I am. Let's get started.
All right, definitely. So, to open up, you're an entrepreneur and you run your own successful deli. Can you tell me a little bit about that, sort of the origin story? What made you want to open up a deli in the first place?
So yeah, of course, we actually opened up 2 years ago, or it's about to be 2 years right now in March, March 15th actually, the same day as my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Happy
reason
early
why,
birthday.
yeah, on my birthday, it's kind of like a little birthday present. The reason why we decided to open up a business, and I say we because it's my father and I.
Mm-hmm.
At that end, the business that the deli that he was working in was about to fail, and they were about to close it down. So my father was actually going to be without a job. And I remember telling him that I had some money set aside from a lot of the business things I was doing. I'd go around and do a lot of entrepreneurial things ever since I was very little. And especially when I was 16 and I found out that I was undocumented. I couldn't get a job, right, because I wanted to also go get my license, my permit and all of that, and I couldn't. So that was a huge encouragement. Once I came to find out that I couldn't do that, I decided that I had to do something for myself. And if I couldn't find a job, I might as well create a job for myself to make money, right? And that's how I ventured off. I talked to my dad. I'm like, hey, why don't we, there's businesses, they're about to close down. Why don't we buy it? And he looked at me like, are you crazy? Why would we do that? And I told him, well, we might as well. And I told him I took some business management classes at NCC, and I'm sure that I can manage the place and I can make this business work. I think that that's what needs to happen, better management. My father decided, we're like, you know what, why not? Let's give it a try. And we teamed up, we put money together, and we opened up the place. And the business now, like I said, we're about to be 2 years in business, and we won for the second year in a row now, Best Deli in Norwalk on Connecticut Magazine. And so far, the business is going really well.
Congratulations for that, by the way.
Thank you.
It's really great. All right. So moving on, you're also a DACA recipient.
Mm-hmm.
What has DACA done for you, and what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so DACA has done a lot for me. I think that not only has it allowed me to obtain a social security number where it allows me to work, and until recently we were even allowed to travel abroad for educational reasons, humanitarian reasons, kind of gave us a sense of humanity again. And it wasn't just a matter of what it allows us to do, but also what it allows us to understand of ourselves and feel that we are enough and we are deserving. As young people who came to this country, I came here when I was 6 years old, and it's not like I had much of a choice, for it, but that's how it came down. And I think that my whole life I've grown up an American at heart. I think that DACA allows us to feel like we are included and we are part of the fabric of this country. And I think that many of us DACA recipients are not only members of this society, but highly contributing members of this society. And I think that it's only fair that we are recognized as people that exist.
Of course.
So I think that that's definitely something that DACA has done. It's also allowed me to try to pursue higher education. And I think that I feel like I'm part of this country once again. And even though, I've been here since I was 6. My education, elementary, middle school, high school, has been here in the States. And I think
American education.
Right, I think that that's something that DACA has done for me. It's allowed me to also do a lot of things for my business and try to pursue that forward and give back to the to this country through the American economy by creating jobs and being able to also pay my taxes and again contribute to a lot of these services that I can't take advantage of because I'm undocumented, right? And that only U.S. citizens can take advantage of. But I think that as being here, it's a way that I can also contribute back and show that, I want to be part of this country, and I'm not planning on leaving because, we're here to stay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, back to your journey. You're originally from Honduras.
Right.
And like you said before, you were 6 when you came here. Mm-hmm. Describe the journey that you took. How was it for you?
It was definitely intense, but I think that, maybe not. There's always a worse story than the story you may go through, right? And coming here, I remember we walked a lot. We took buses and different types of, like community transportation, right? We didn't go through plane or anything like that. I know my parents, though, previously to that, had tried many ways to get me visas, to get me some way of coming into the country legally. My parents actually have TPSs.
In Mexico,
and
Guatemala,
again, coming here was a trip that it was kind of like the last measure, right, to bring me here with my aunt, who was only a teenager at the time as well.
Yeah.
And it was intense. I remember we went through different stops. Every stop we went through, there were different people that would help us, and most of the people actually on the journey here that would be in different countries helping you out were American themselves. So it was interesting to see how it was Americans helping you to get to America, right? People that understood what this voyage was like and the struggle. And again, hundreds of people have died. I saw, coming through. I went through different countries, walked through different countries, tried different foods. I remember going through El Rio Grande, crossing El Rio Grande, and what that was like. It was a very intense. I remember, it's kind of like we were on a raft as we were trying to cross the river, and it was like an inflatable raft. They got popped like mid through the river, and mind it was like this was like January or so it was cold out. Like, and we fell in the water and almost drowned it. I was pulled out, and like as soon as we got to like the other side of the river, we had like ICE agents pointing guns at our heads. So, and then, we were brought into immigration and customs services. And that was, part of like a lot of the trip that I went through here. It was intense.
Yeah.
To be real with you, I saw my aunt who came with me. She was only like 17, 18 or so at the time. She was young. Along the way, like she got raped. I saw people, get killed. I remember I had a friend at a house once, and we were there, and she was part of the group that I was with, and she was like a 13-year-old girl that was only 6. I saw her, as like the only friend, the only closest person around my age, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but once I was that night, I got out of the room trying to go look for the bathroom, and I don't know what she did, but I saw her like she was being raped in her room, and it was like traumatic. It was very intense.
It's terrible.
And it's not. I think it's not an easy trail.
Yeah.
It's definitely something difficult. And again, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't mean to. And I guess we also weren't. But it's crazy, to think that we haven't been the only people that have gone through that. People have gone through worse. People die. And I think that I'm thankful that none of these crazy and intense things necessarily happened to me. But I did, see a lot of things, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's relatable to me because I'm a born American. I was born here, but my parents are immigrants themselves. My mom is from Honduras, like you, and my dad is from Guatemala. And my dad came here originally as an illegal. So he described...
Undocumented.
Yeah, undocumented, I'm sorry. But he came here, and he described the trip to me as well as... at first he kind of described it as kid-friendly. He's just like, all right, he took trains that, right. And I saw it in a documentary, like how the original trip was like trains, and he did a lot of walking, like you said, and I never really thought anything about it until I was older. I kind of knew more about the topic. I kind of researched it more, and I was like, okay, it's a bit more serious than that. So I mean, how my dad and my mom describe it, it's not really a trip that that is like it's not really a trip. It's a trip that you need to make. Is how they describe it to me, to provide a better life for me and for you as well. I imagine that
Of course.
that you, it's just because of in America, it's a land of opportunity.
Right. And the reason why I say undocumented is
Yeah.
because, we don't say people are illegal because I guess a human being's existence can't be illegal. So we say undocumented.
That is true.
Right, undocumented, because my existence, and again, being undocumented is not, it's a civil offense, right? Coming into this country, I guess, not through the legal routes or legal tunnels. But even at that, it's something that it's a last option thing to do for a lot of people, right? Not only because, let's say, maybe they can't afford it, but rather the channels for people coming from third world countries are not necessarily there, right? However, if you're coming from, I guess, much wealthier countries, you're coming from Europe and stuff like that, the channels are a lot easier for you to travel through. You're coming from Honduras, like for my parents and I, right? We had to be part of the top wealthy percentage of the country. In order for us to be able to obtain visas. That's just because of the culture and the structures of not only I guess like values of people, but also the governments out there. And they don't necessarily make it easy for a lot of the people coming from these countries to come into this country. And people say, oh, why don't you wait for the line? But it's like, if you show me a line, I'll go ahead and wait for it, right? And there's people that have been there, waiting for visas for over 10 years, right? You hear these stories all the time. And I think it's definitely important to acknowledge that.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on. You're an advocate for the Connecticut Dreamers, and you met with the governor and the Senate. Can you tell us a little bit about the meeting that you had with them?
Yeah. So that meeting that I had with Governor Malloy was in regards to allowing the channels to open up for institutional aid for undocumented students. And the whole reason why we did that is because undocumented students pay into tuition, right? And a lot of times they have to pay out-of-state tuition if, let's say, they don't fall under the criteria of the Connecticut, DREAM Act, which is something that allows undocumented students to pay institutional aid if they can provide and prove that they've been here pretty much their whole entire lives in the state of Connecticut. If not, meet all this whole entire criteria to be able to pay in-state tuition. Just because you're an undocumented student, you have to go through that different channel. And again, all these students put into this pool of money that then other students take advantage of, but undocumented students weren't allowed to do that. So that meeting was centered around that, to tell him our stories and to ask for him to help us and do something to open up institutional aid for undocumented students, to then allow us, to not pay out-of-state tuition, but rather pay in-state tuition like every other person that, has lived in the state as well. And, furthermore, to allow us to afford to dream, right? Because paying out-of-state tuition is a huge burden, for the average student. And
even with financial aid.
Even with financial aid, I'm sure. So imagine, how much more impossible it is for an undocumented student to do that, right? It's kind of like, you're looking at, it's very similar to the way it's, let's say, it doesn't say you as an undocumented student can't go to college, but they create all of these, Jim Crow-like, I'd say, laws, right, for undocumented people, similar to that kind of bar you in some way or another, keep you from pursuing higher education and bettering yourself, and which makes us second-class citizens. And I think that being part of that meeting allowed me to voice myself and voice, for other undocumented students who are constantly shunned from doing so.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've become an inspiration for not only this generation of immigrants coming in, but also further generations of, I guess, children that come in and try to make a life for themselves. But what sets you apart from the competition in terms of your deli, in terms of you as an individual? What do you think sets you apart?
Well, when I look at it, I guess, in that sense, right, of my competition, I think that the only person I see as competition is myself, right? It's kind of like I got to be better than the person I was yesterday. And really that's kind of like one of the core values I take my life on with. But, if let's say, how am I different from other people in that sense? I'd say that I definitely have a drive, and I feel like my purpose in this world is to help people out, and to do something different to help others out, because I know what it's like to come from struggle. I know what it's like, to have to walk barefoot, not because you choose, but because you can't afford it, right? And what it's like to grow up in a third world country. I remember all of that, and being in this country, seeing the opportunities my parents have allowed me to obtain, I think that that's probably somewhat of a different way of thinking from some people, trying to take advantage of every opportunity that comes my way, and always trying to make myself better, because I think that if I compare, myself to other people and how good other people are doing, I'm never going to be better than them, because I'm always comparing to what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like only they can be better than themselves.
Exactly.
So I think that, I won't look at what they're doing, but rather how can I make myself better? Even looking at my deli, right on Main Avenue, we have, Sandwich on one end, we have other businesses on, like Diamond Deli and all these other Polly's Deli, that are right on the same avenue. And let's say, entering the avenue, they're before my business, right? However, we've been able to cultivate, enough clientele to be where we are today, to be acknowledged as the best deli in Norwalk on Connecticut Magazine, for the second year in a row, even though that, there's other businesses just like us right around us. And I think a lot of the difference, what makes the difference is how much, I'd say, passion we have for what we do. Right, and how we're working with goals, and we have a mission statement, and all these things that we're trying to pursue to make sure that we offer not only healthier food, but also make sure that we're offering affordable pricing as well for healthy food, and definitely trying to bring some change into the culture and the atmosphere of how these businesses run. I think that that's definitely one thing at the core of what makes me probably different, right? I don't just focus on the money and all this, but rather how can I help others out? And in the same way, I think it's as an effect where you help others out, and sometime in the future when that person's better, they're going to help you out. So a lot of it is with those core values and that vision in mind.
And it's not going to get done itself. You need to, not only do you see situations, but for opportunity, but you need to be able to have that tenacity to go after it.
Right.
To kind of, because it's not going to happen itself. You need to. The only way you're able to move forward is to do something, right? Whether it's to open a deli, or to provide healthy foods. You're helping in some other ways than that.
Right. Right. And I think it's not only to prove other people that that I'm good enough, right? As an undocumented person, as a person that's not a citizen, but rather to prove myself as well that I'm good enough, and that I know that I'm good enough, right? Because I'm a contributing member to this society. I don't think that I'm here to harm anybody, or to do any damage to anyone whatsoever. Rather, I'm just doing my part and contributing back to society and what makes us us. I think that a huge part of it is to that.
All right. Well, you've been in several newspaper articles. Were you ever worried about being discovered as an undocumented immigrant?
No. Actually, I think that what pursued me to further do more was to share my story and tell people that I'm undocumented, and to help remove this stigma around that, that we are here to take people's jobs, or that we're lazy, we're gang members. I don't think that there's a, that's, and if anything, it's a very small percentage of people that actually do come here, right? Because again, you look at it, people don't just come here fleeing, like, let's say, gang violence or all these things. A lot of people that come here because they're pursuing a higher dream. They have a higher vision of what they want to do with their lives and what they want to offer their children. And I think that a lot of it kind of just goes back to that, right? Being able to just show that there's a lot that we can still do, and show that there's a lot that I can do.
Right. And a follow-up to that, in your own words, what does it mean to be a dreamer?
So I think being a dreamer, outside of the political definition of being a young person that came to this country and has, a high vision of, I guess, accomplishing the American dream, to me, being a dreamer is having an identity, right? And showing and knowing that there's a lot I want to do with myself in this life. I feel like there's a lot that I have to offer. I have hands, I have eyes, I have clothes on my back, and I have access to education. And I think that that makes me a dreamer, right? Wanting to pursue higher education, wanting to pursue higher education, wanting to better myself and better those around me. I think that, you know, people that are dreamers are visionaries, and they have a vision for a better future, for a better, you know, tomorrow, right? And I think that that's something that I dream of and I want to do. Make sure I can do my best to see my brother and sister, and even those that are going to come after me, you know, live in a better world than the one we're living in today.
All right. Well, as of right now, what are some of the dreams in your life? What are some other things that you want to pursue and going into the future?
Well, I'm a very ambitious person. For sure, something I want to do is expand, you know, my deli. I want to expand the business, opening up. I want to open up all over the country. I want to further expand and, you know, one day fully retire my mother, fully retire my father, make sure that I have enough money to offer, you know, my sister a better education, my children a better education. And I think, you know, I have a lot of goals, but, you know, one thing definitely that, you know, is with me ever since I was very, very little is that I want to travel to all, you know, 196 plus countries of the world. I want to go to the poorest of slums. I want to go and open up feeding centers, educational centers, and free clinics for children, you know, and make sure that children in other countries that are coming from very poor countries have the opportunity to life. Like many other people, you know, I feel like not a lot of people necessarily see it as something so precious and something that we all need to value. And that's something that I want to bring to the world. I want to bring that sense of value and appreciation for the life of everybody. And I would like to travel, you know, to poor countries around the country, around the world, and be able to do that and offer that.
Do you think that one of the first countries that you would ever want to visit, you would want to give back to your own community? Would you go back to?
Of course, and I think that that's definitely, you know, where we start and where we have to start, right? Give back to our community, because then like that, once we fortify and once we nutrition our communities are going to be able to multiply and do that with other communities, right? I don't think it's something I'm going to do by myself. You know? I'm not Superman.
Exactly.
But definitely I think it's something that can get done in a community, and that's definitely why, you know, everywhere I go I try to make sure I make a positive impact on everybody. So then like that, you know, like it spreads, right, and it ripple effects around the world, and once I think you know, I have more money and I have further connections to just kind of like full throttle everything, I'm definitely going to be doing that.
Just out of curiosity, do you have any family still at home? Like
yeah,
Honduras?
Honduras, yeah. My grandmother lives over there. She actually just traveled this past summer. She stayed here for like 6 months with us. And that's, you know, because she's an older woman, and my parents, we have a house here, we have a business, so they can, you know, prove that my grandmother is not going to come and stay here, you know, or something like that. And again, she's elderly. I do have like cousins and all those other things too.
So to move on to the last thing I'm going to ask you, in 10 years from now, 10 years, where do you see yourself? Okay. What do you think your end goal is by the time how old are you now? You're 21.
21, turning
right? So
22.
So yeah, so 32. What do you think you're going to be accomplished?
Where do I see myself?
Yeah.
I see myself in a country abroad, definitely. Probably, I'd say in 10 years from now, opening up, let's say, my 20th free clinic. You know, something ambitious. And I think I want to see myself as being a millionaire. I want to make sure that my businesses thrive, and you know, the only thing I ask, you know, God for is to give me health and continue to give me passion to do that. But that's definitely I think where I see myself, being out there somewhere in the world, making a difference in the life of someone else, for sure.
I hope it goes well for you. All right.
Thank you.
Today we got to meet someone who shared with us his story and is a proud entrepreneur of Sierra Deli. We would like to thank Junior Sierra for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me here. You know, again, it was wonderful having a conversation with you and being able to share with you my story and have the opportunity to do that, and, you know, probably with other people as well.
All right. We hope you enjoyed meeting today's guest, and we hope you will continue us for each week to watch our progress. Thank you, and good day.
All right. I think that was good, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. That was good. That was good.
your host, Eric Lopez. Directed by Camila Aguirre. I'm your announcer, Jessica Jameson. Person to Person is a Norwalk Community student production.